speaking of the media piece, we've got a little compilation for you of the way the media has bought into this, the protests are anti-Semitic line, hook, line, and sinker. Let's take a listen to a little bit of that.
By the way, there are both professors and students within the university who say things that I think cross the line, and there should be accountability. I believe in free speech. Say whatever you want, but pay the consequences and don't have your face covered. I don't think that should be allowed.
These are not protesters. These are violent hate mongers. The things that are coming out of their mouth: burn down Tel Aviv, genocide. October 7th, we did it once. We'll do it 10 times. We'll do it 100 times. We'll do it 1,000 times. We'll do it 10,000 times. This is an atrocity. And I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. If there was any group spewing hate and violence against any other group, Asians, blacks, Hispanics, gays, it would be shut down. And this needs to be shut down immediately because, and once again, those groups are back. Those tents are back up. And this cannot go unanswered. It's very simple. And, you know, there's a continuum of protesters. There's a heinous anti-violent ones that spewing hatred, spewing death, if you will. And then there's the less malignant that say ceasefire. But even ceasefire doesn't have the word peace in it. Never do you hear the word peace because this side doesn't want peace. It wants a jihad. And this is not pro-Palestinian. This is anti-Israel. And anti-Israel is a misnomer because it's really anti-Jew.
And I'll even go further. It's not almost anti-Semitism. It is anti-Semitism. And this is something that is on display right now. But the sort of roots of this kind of devolving from A to B go back millennia. And this is something, the roots of anti-Semitism that pop up in societies that frankly tend to be a canary in the coal mine for a society and democracy in this case that is in a lot of trouble. It is, I like to look at this and replace Jews with any other minority group here. And what would the entire country be doing? They would be outraged, rightly so.
So obviously, as you note, protest is an important part of being an American. Free speech is an important part of being an American. Where is the line? For example, I've seen video of somebody at the Gaza encampment at Columbia standing up and talking about how great October 7th Hamas attacks on Israel was and calling the Hamas terrorists, calling them freedom fighters. Is that hate speech or is that protected free speech? Where do you come down on that?
And that is, believe it or not, as vile as it could be, because Hamas should be destroyed from the actions they did on October 7th and other actions. But that does not fall into a crime. If someone makes a comment that they want to join a terrorist organization, that's going to come under investigation. But the commissioner of legal matters at the New York City Police Department is going to really break this down for New Yorkers.
Oh, my God.
Whew, there's a lot going on there, isn't there?
At least Eric Adams had to inform Jake Tapper, like, yeah, that's actually not illegal.
Well, what did he say?
He said, like,
it may not believe him.
You may not believe it, but actually people can say things even that are offensive. Like,
yeah.
You're a journalist, Jake Tapper. You don't know the basics of the freaking First Amendment? Listen, even if you say something incredibly offensive, incredibly racist, like horrific, I know the clip he's talking about too, which he mischaracterizes, but anyway, put that aside, even if it's as represented, it's not even a borderline case. It's not close. Listen, Donnie Deutsch in there, his was probably the worst. It's an atrocity, a rally chant that you don't like, calling for ceasefire. It's an atrocity, he says, because it doesn't have the word peace in it. And the erasure of all of the Jewish students who are involved here just makes me insane because they keep conflating. They accuse these protesters of doing it, but they're the ones doing it. Conflating all Jewish people with the state of Israel and the government of Israel and their actions. That is actually anti-Semitic, okay? Especially when you have many, especially young Jewish Americans who are appalled by the actions of this government. And you want to associate them with a government that, again, is plausibly committing a genocide in Gaza Strip? And what impact do you think that's going to have if you force every Jewish person to be conflated with the state of Israel? That is not condoning, but predictably going to lead to a rise in anti-Semitism. It's just makes me so insane. And then Robert Kraft there at the beginning, you mentioned him before.
Yeah.
That's probably the most consequential comments that we played. Here's a billionaire donor, very influential in Republican political circles in particular, but political circles in general. Very influential at Columbia University because he's given oodles of money, I don't know how much, to the school, saying he's pulling his donations, and he believes in free speech, but not when he disagrees with it. Then he doesn't believe in free speech.
Part of what bugs me about a lot of this analysis is it presumes that it's also okay. I mean, look, maybe it's controversial, but you know, even if white supremacists were on campus, as long as it's not hurting anybody, it is free speech.
Listen, I support it.
I do too. But I want to talk that way.
Thing being, permit being issued. It was very controversial. The ACLU was sort of like tore each other apart. But that is the foundations. It's even things that are blatantly wrong, racist, anti-Semitic, like even if they were, and that's a mischaracterization of what's going on here. That's when the First Amendment actually becomes important. When it's things that people agree with and are comfortable with, then you don't need it.
They're like, well, if they were saying the same thing about Jews or about Asians or blacks, I'm like, well, you know, like I'm South Asian, right? Or Indian, I guess. South Asian is a controversial term. Here's a good example. If there was there's like Sikh separatists who are really big in America, and this drives Indian people absolutely crazy, right? Especially the Indian government. And if there was a Sikh protest whenever I was going to college, you know what I would do? I would walk past and I would go to the library and live my life, because I'd be like, first of all, I'm born here, I'm not from India. Second of all, I don't give a shit about Sikh separatists. But that's, you know, I guess more personal to me. Let's turn it up even more. Let's say that there is a there's a whole thing going on right now with a Title 9 or whatever, with women's sports and trans and all that. And there's even college athletes that have been speaking out against that. If there was a pro keep women in women's sports rally on campus, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely. You have to support it. And I have no doubt also that all of these other people would certainly also, they would call for a crackdown there, and they would think that that is correct. So that's another thing where we have to not buy Dana Bash and a lot of the media framing here, which is they're like, imagine if, and RFK Jr. said this too whenever he was here. We were talking about the university presidents. And he's like, imagine if they'd said that about blacks. I'd be like, well, okay. I mean, it's a free country. You know, don't necessarily agree with it, but hey, like, you got to be allowed to be able to say whatever you want.
Let's not pretend like there aren't actual neo-Nazi protests that happen. They're like sort of pathetic. You know, there were some that happened like in Florida. They're pathetic and people find them disgusting. But the White House isn't putting out a statement on them. So I actually think it's the
exact... I don't think they should either.
No, I think it's the polar opposite, actually. I think there's been much more of a reaction to people, you know, calling for divestment and rally chants. Listen, again, if you don't like the rally chants, that's fine. You can be offended by the rally chants, but it's not violence. It doesn't deserve the National Guard coming in and a crack. It's not an atrocity. You want to see an atrocity? Look at anything coming out of the Gaza Strip every single day if you want to know what an actual atrocity is. So since we aren't at Columbia, and neither are any of those idiots that we just showed you opining on what's happening there, thought we would bring you a thread of someone who actually was on the Columbia campus talking about what they witnessed, so we can sort a little bit of fact from fiction here on what's actually going on. Let's put this up on the screen. So this is Alejandra Ramos. She actually works for the Today Show. But she says, listen, my usual TV beat is food, but I'm also a current Columbia student, and I'm so sad and so frustrated with the way student protests on our campus are being reported. This will be imperfect, but I can't watch things that are so contrary to what I've actually seen and stay silent. Go ahead to the next one. I'm concerned by the reports broadcasting from outside our campus gates with footage shot almost entirely off campus. Look closely at the videos. If there are stores, subway stops, closed gates in the background, etc., this is not an on-campus protest. This context matters. Continuing to the next one. Campus access is limited to those of us with Columbia IDs. The protesters on sidewalks, peaceful or otherwise, are mostly those who are not allowed to enter. Vile agitators screaming at students from outside campus are not Columbia students, and this must be made clear in reports. Continue on. Reports that only show Zoom interviews with students sharing one perspective feel irresponsible to me. How can you report on protests without interviewing a single protester? Why are their voices being excluded when there are so many of them willing to speak? And of course, we all know the answer to that, Saagar, of why their voices are excluded. By the way, Emily and Ryan have an interview set for tomorrow with one of the protest organizers at Columbia, who apparently when, Ryan was in touch with her, she was busy buying the items that they need for their Passover Seder dinner.
Wow.
So,
yeah, well, there you go.
Some real anti-Semitic stuff going on there.
That is, yes, agreed. I think that we should hear it out. I've done a lot of research. I'm not necessarily predisposed to be like loving these people. Everything I have not found, anything I find like particularly all that objectionable. And if you were to take a zoomed out view of this, I would just say, like you said, if you're offended by protest chants, that's fine. Grow up. I don't know what to tell you. I live in an area where I disagree with like 95% of my neighbors. And it's annoying, walking by those dumbass signs that are like, in this house, we believe race, whatever, science is real, etc. I've been bombarded with George Floyd's face for the last 4 years, trans flags and all this other nonsense. Do I like it? No. But you know what? I just live. That's what you do. That's why I don't understand why it is so difficult to, live in an area like that lady, the Campbell Brown, saying that she literally thinks she's safer in Israel than in the West Side. And my other response, if you believe that, then leave. Just leave. Because honestly, if you think that a country where you've evacuated like 200,000 people of your population from freaking rocket attacks, and you're in the middle of a war, and you just had Iranian drones come to your soil, and where they had to be shot down out of the sky by the U.S. military. If you think that is safer than the United States of America, then you shouldn't be here. That's my actual response to this.
It's so preposterous. Do you know,
Yeah.
I also used to live on the Upper West Side.
Yeah.
I lived in all kinds of places in Manhattan. And do you know how many happy, successful Jewish people there are? My daughter went to the JCC preschool
Good point.
there. It's so delusional. I don't even know what to say about it. It's honestly the desire to, this Shai Davidai character, the desire to put himself in the center of this, the, quest for this intense victimhood. Again, you cannot like what they're protesting. You can, find it offensive. That's all fine, but you're a grown man. You don't have anything else more important in your life than not liking the rally chant of these students who you're there to teach? I don't know. I don't know what to say about it.
Very stupid.
Hey guys, if you like that video, go to breakingpoints.com, become a premium subscriber, and help us build the best independent media organization on the planet.
That's right. We're subscriber funded. We're building something new. We want to replace these failing mainstream media organizations.
So again, to subscribe, it's breakingpoints.com.